Welcome back to Maths and Physics with Mr. Simons. Now we're doing some grade 12 trigonometry or general solution. Generally with grade 12 we're going to give you the compound angle formula in expanded form and we test whether you can reduce it. Remember, we can only solve general solution if we have a single trig ratio, right? So without further ado, video 6 of 7. Find the general solution given cos A cos 45 plus sin A sin 45 equals 0,62. So we assume, if it's given as cos cos sin sin, I can reduce it using cos compound angle formula, right? So that then becomes cos A and 44, but plus always becomes negative if I reduce using cos. So now I have cos A minus 44 equals 0,62. I have a single trig ratio. It's in terms of only one ratio, cos. So therefore I can press shift cos 0,62. That gives me a reference angle of 51,68, etc. degrees. Right? And cos is positive. So it's positive in quadrant 1 and quadrant 4. So for quadrant 1 I have A minus 44 equal my reference angle plus k times 360 because it's cos, right? Or for quadrant 4 I would have A minus 44 equal 360 minus the reference angle plus k times 360. If I take negative 44 over, it becomes positive 44. So I have 51,68 plus 44 plus k 360. If I simplify, that gives me 95,68 degrees plus k times 360. 360 minus 51,68 gives me 308,32. Take negative 44 over, it becomes plus 44. So 308,32 plus 44 becomes 352,32. So you see I just carried k 360 all the way down. I must specify that k is an element of integers. So 1 mark for my cos reduction using compound angle formula, 1 mark for the reference angle, 1 mark for creating the two equations, and 1 mark for simplifying both equations. Right, so that's the one way. So in general, it's going to either be cos cos, sin sin, or the other problem is we're going to test sine compound angle formula. Right, so let's look at problem number 2. So find the general solution. Now you see I've given you sine cos, cos sine. So as I said, we either test cos compound angle or sine. It's only two we can test. So there I have sine A cos 64 plus cos A sine 64 equals 0,84. I want the general solution, so I have to reduce. Because I have sine cos, cos sine, I have to use the sine compound angle. So A and 64. And positive stays positive with sin. Right, so that becomes sine A plus 64 equal 0,84. Now I have a single trig ratio in sine. So I can say shift sine 0,84. It gives me a reference angle of 54,14 degrees. Sine is positive in quadrant 1 and quadrant 2. So in quadrant 1, I have A plus 64 equal the reference angle plus k times 360. If I take 64 over, 57,14 minus 64 plus the k times 360 becomes negative 6,86 plus k times 360. For quadrant 2, A plus 64 equal 180 minus my reference angle of 57,14 plus k times 360. 180 minus that gives me 122,86. Take plus 64 over, it becomes minus 64. So 122,86 minus 64 gives me 57,14 plus k times 360. Must end off and write k element of integers. Right, so 1 mark for sine reduction, 1 for the reference angle, 1 for creating both equations, and then basically these 2 marks are for simplifying and finding the solution. So I hope you follow. As I said, we can only test cos compound angle or sine compound angle. So whether I do 20 of them, they're going to follow the same procedure. Go find problems and do similar problems. Just follow the procedure. There's a method to how we solve it. Right? I wish you nothing but the best. God bless. Bye.